Carolina Panthers wrapped up their first day of training camp, and we are here to get you caught up with all the latest news. Let's go.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls, One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. First day of training camp is in the books. Over. Done. And we get to talk about some big topics that happened today. Now, unfortunately, you guys know fans are not in attendance, so the only thing that we have to go off of are the folks that are in person recording during the sessions of whatever's open for them to record, because they are limited in when, and their tweets and posts and stories. There's a lot of great folks covering the Carolina Panthers, giving us insight into what's going on. And then from our perspective, or at least from my perspective, with how closely I follow this, with the pressers and everything that we get to hear through this journey, it's like, hey, we can kind of dissect this thing a little bit to get our read on the situation for the Carolina Panthers. And maybe the biggest story wasn't how training camp practice started, but how it ended. And now, again, there's no footage of this, but everything that we heard today was that at the end of practice, I guess the very last play, and I don't know if this play resulted in practice being called, but Princely Umanmielen, rookie, third-round selection, trying to get his feet underneath him, trying to establish himself. He's talked about wanting to get paid, his work ethic, all those things. Out there, I guess, on what was the last play, gets around the end, gets to Bryce Young, and, Bryce is attempting to throw the ball, and this is, again, the report that we have, but Bryce is attempting to throw the ball. He comes down on Bryce, makes some contact. People are not a fan of it. You blow the whistles, you end practice. And to be honest, there is some etiquette that happens and etiquette that comes along with playing in the NFL. And this is not just the NFL. I remember playing football, 18 years ago, whatever it was. I guess it's technically been 18 years in high school and in college. Not hitting the quarterback was a thing even way back then. We had started to make the push, this softer generation. I'm joking, but really, you started to make this push to not hitting the quarterback. So that was addressed by Dave Canales, but there was also some interesting tidbits that came out of this. So then we're going to break it down. We're going to get you guys up to speed. We're going to reevaluate the linebacking room, talk about some of the competition battles that are underway. We did get to hear from Christian Roseboom, who, spoiler alert, is getting the green dot. So he's going to be the play caller. I have some assumptions and speculations about Christian Roseboom getting the green dot over Trevin Wallace, in my theory, which we'll get into a little bit. We'll talk about, again, Josie Juul departing, what that means. It was a busy day, though. We got to hear from Dave Canales. We got to hear from Bryce Young, Christian Roseboom, and J.C. Horn. They were staying busy out there. So lots of good content. If you're interested, feel free to go back, watch. Again, do like me, watch these things multiple times, but slowly getting a feel. But today, we do have some resources prepared for you guys, changing things up, as we always do, trying to find the best groove to be able to talk about some of this stuff. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So training camp day one in the books. Really cool how we can put this stuff together based off of notes. We're going to talk about the Panthers. We're going to really discuss the roster, watch some of the position battles, like we said. There's a few things to talk about across the NFL. That's one of the things I don't do a lot of, is talking about larger NFL news. And then I'm going to try to incorporate some news from the NFC South to get you guys up to speed with what's happening because you know what? This is where the battle begins in the NFC South for the Carolina Panthers as they attempt to make a push for the playoffs. So day one in the books, kicking off a new season with rare leadership, stability, impactful rookies, a lot of roster changes, and of course, we're going to go over the key storylines from day one. Also, I hope you guys had a chance to tune in to ESPN Wilmington today. Went on there with my man Randy Slack around 11:15. We talked training camp. We got you guys as prepared as we could get on the state of the roster. It was a shortened segment because I had to jump. We were there for about 20 minutes. Look for that during the season for all my folks in the Wilmington market and surrounding areas. You can tune in. And if you're not, you can still listen. You can listen online. You can listen through Apple Music, just searching ESPN Wilmington. It's fun. Hope you guys enjoy that for those that are local. So we'll have a lot more of that to come as we get into this. Now, Panthers Focus. Let's talk about the foundation of stability, and then we'll get into a comment that stuck out to me with Dave Canales from earlier today. Talking about a foundation of stability. So for the first time, and we talked about this actually on the show today with my man Randy Slack, and we didn't have the exact date, but we knew it'd been a while. So for the first times, and we actually talked about this a little in the offseason, but you know, for those that may have been tuned out during the offseason, you never know. So we're bringing it back around. But for the first time since 2019, the Panthers enter a season with the same head coach, general manager, and starting quarterback. Continuity, and you know, it provides consistent identity and culture that they're trying to build. And I'm going to lean into what they're telling us, which is this player-led culture. Second time around for Dave Canales as the head coach, and of course, Dan Morgan, the GM, and then Bryce Young. We cannot look past this. Like, it is a big thing for Bryce Young in his third season in the NFL. And you know what, folks? We heard there was an interception. Sounds like Damani Richardson looking pretty good at the safety position. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But it's no time to panic. Like I said yesterday when the news came out that Josie Juul was going to be out, yes, I'm not pleased with the current state of the linebacking room and could have been improved along the way, but you just take what you got and you run with it. Now, one of the things that I think J.C. Horn talked about, and then Dave Canales, who really led things off, is, and I've got the quote here for you guys that are looking at this, but he did set high expectations. Now, there wasn't any expectations set around the P word, playoffs. Like, nope, didn't touch on that per se, but talking about being a tough team with a physical style of play. So this is the exact quote. He said, I don't think people are going to want to play us by the style of football that we play. My expectations are really high for this group. So you think about this, he's saying that teams are not going to want to play the Carolina Panthers. And of course, if you are not a diehard Panthers fan, or maybe you're just someone else tuned into this, that's like, you know what, I'm just a fly on the wall today, a fly on the wall. Wall on the fly. It's fun times over here. If you heard that statement in regards to the Carolina Panthers, you'd probably laugh. And I think even some of us who are realists, some of the diehard fans, you may even giggle a little bit to a certain extent. But if I'm being honest, as I put on my hat of like, hey, Dave Canales is really building something special here, I do get excited about that. Now, you can't have all the talk and not have action backed up behind it and go out here and perform. Got to be able to perform. Hands down. Coming out here saying you want teams to fear playing the Carolina Panthers, that they're not going to want to play us because of our style of football. And we say our style of football, you got to mean hard-hitting, heavy defense, and a really abusive, bruising run game. Like, when I think about not wanting to play a team way back in the day, it was a team that was really good at defense and a team that just ran the ball down your throat. Because the passing attack is fast. You get the ball out quick, so be it. But if you don't have a defense, and if you can't really do that much. So very interesting indeed from my vantage point. And again, J.C. Horn even reiterated that as well. So we have Bryce Young, like we said, some stability entering in as we talk about the progression from last year. A lot of people wondering, what is Bryce Young going to look like? We get the early note, and David Newton of ESPN did not hold back the very second. I feel like he's been saving this tweet from the offseason, like just ready to send it out the moment that Bryce Young threw his first interception in camp. Like, we don't care. David Newton has been going through, and I don't know what the motive is, through all of the press conferences asking about the benching. I know it's to put together a story and a perspective, but asking every single person out here about the benching of Bryce Young from last year, like, mother effer. I try not to cuss on this show, but every now and then there's F-bombs that drop between editing, and this one's not going to be one of those. But mother effer, what are you doing, dude? Let's move on. And even yesterday, like I said, with Robert Hunt getting pretty frustrated with the fact that it was brought up, makes you wonder. Now, I did talk about the key. I did mention this as far as the end of practice, the coaching moment that happened between Princely Umanmielen when he strip sacked Young. First of all, can we just, like, moving aside from the etiquette side of football, talk about how excited we are for Princely to be able to get to the quarterback? I know we're wondering, is it going to be him or Scorton? How soon are these guys getting out there? Well, with DJ Wonnum battling injuries and working his way back, there's a good chance that both of these guys are in the rotation very, very early. So you did get to see that showcase of talent and, like, hey, let's just bring it onto the field. Of course, talking about that, the etiquette side of it at the end of practice. You want to protect your quarterback. Like, those are just nuances you're going to learn. Young handled it with maturity from all accounts that we heard. So I don't think it's something that's going to destroy the team or anything like that. We just want to see it happen. Other question is, who did he beat? We always talk about the interceptions. Now, who did he beat? How did he get there? Was it Ike Ekwonu? I'm not going to worry about it, folks. It's early. It's way too early to start going down the path and talking through, like, what that's going to look like. Now, I saw some highlights from Tedo McMillan, and I don't know if you guys have had a chance, but there was a route, and it was posted by Carolina Blitz, where they were going through the drills, and the guy was in front of him going through. The guy had cut back around, I guess the other receiver that was in the drill, and then one of the coaches. So they were, like, all right there together. And McMillan just goes up and one hand snatches the ball through the drill. Now, it was slow. It wasn't like a fast pace or anything like that. But, yeah, this dude's got hands, and he can catch. When we look at the 2025 draft class, I think for us, as we talk about guys that are probably going to contribute sooner rather than later, I do look at the group. If you are watching the podcast on Spotify or YouTube, McMillan, that was one of the things that we talked about today on the radio, was Tedo McMillan in year one. Like, do I have more expectations? Am I more excited to see him, or am I more excited to see Xavier? And I said it was both. I think Tedo McMillan can open a lot of things up, like we've discussed. And I think Xavier, it's more of an idea of, like, what can he be in year two under Dave Canales in this system, and how much did he improve from the things that he talked about from this past offseason? Like, how much has he improved? The pressure's not going to be there, so I'm excited to see what he can look like. We talked about Scorton, the weight loss, the weight gain, being in a good playing weight. Umanmielen closing out practice. Lathan Ransom got in the rotation at the safety position. It sounded like it was first come, first serve at safety between Ransom, Damani Richardson, opposite of Trayvon Merrick, and then some of the other guys. It's Nick Scott getting into the mix as well. So you got a pretty good lineup of rotation, and I don't know that we're going to know who that starter is going to be until we get closer to week one. And, of course, Mitchell Evans, who's going to be filling in at the tight end position right now in the absence of Tommy Tremble. Did receive positive news in relation to Tremble that it's possibly weeks away, could be 3 or 4 weeks. Hopefully that means ready by week one. But we'll see. The Carolina Panthers did bring in some additional help, as we talked about, with Tyler Mabry coming into the fold. And then this morning, they added some cornerback depth, bringing in Trey Swilling and then releasing the quarterback, which I'll tell you in a second. Gabers, make sure I get this right. Ethan Garbers, excuse me. So Ethan Garbers Swilling appeared in 3 games throughout his entire career. He's 26 years old. Previously with the Titans, Saints, Niners, and Ravens, hasn't had that much of an impact, but he is the son of former Saints, Lions, and Raiders linebacker Pat Swilling. So he does have that connection, but I'm not holding out that I think like, hey, this guy's going to turn out to be something from our perspective there. Now, let's talk about the position group that I've been keying in on, and I think it's the biggest topic, the hottest topic. It's the loss of Josie Juul. Now, we can call it surprising, but in reality, once we got the news and Dave Canales explained it with the decision between, his agent, Jules, everyone involved, that, he was still in the concussion protocol, like things just wasn't right mentally. You think about when Luke Kuechly retired, the why behind it. Not saying this is apples to apples, but it's very similar. There was high praise from Coach Canales talking about his leadership, his toughness. He didn't say a lot, but when he did, people listened. Those are the things that we want to exemplify and lead. And you build out this culture, what you're trying to do. Focus on your health. Always a chance that he can come back, which would actually be fantastic news if at some point we do get him back. Now, our attention turns to the lack of experience in this linebacking group. You look at the career defensive starts among the remaining group of players, and I mean, Josie Juul has more starts by himself than all these guys combined. You have Christian Roseboom with 11 starts in his career. Last year, he was more of a rotational piece and actually put up really good numbers. We went through that, and I've been high on him. We're going to talk about this in a second. Trevin Wallace, who started in 8 games last year, Claudin Cherilus with 2, Wyndham with 2, and then John Radigan with no starts at all. So Christian Roseboom played significantly last year, 136 tackles, did have 11 starts. The notable thing that I have for you guys is that Christian Roseboom is wearing the green dots. For those who don't know what the green dot is, that is the communication piece between the sideline to call in the plays from the coaching staff. It's really your captain. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean they're wearing the captain patch, but your vocal play caller on the defensive side of the ball. They got to know the playbook, got to know this, and this, get people in order, get the play in, let people know what's happening. The fact that it's Christian Roseboom and not Trevin Wallace tells me everything I need to know about the state of where Trevin Wallace is. And it just further backs the theory that I had, and I posted this, that Trevin Wallace likely, if Christian Roseboom and Josie Juul were here, was probably your rotational piece. And I can just tell you folks, if you don't have NFL Pro All 22, if you've not watched Trevin Wallace, there's a lot to be desired. He has a long ways to go. It's not to say that he can't get there, but he is not as prepared, and he definitely was not and hasn't been as prepared as the play caller. And all that said, I think the Panthers last year had a plan to have Shaq, as well as Josie Juul, be the 1-2 punch in front with him in the rotation to learn. He got thrown into the fire. It's going to be a similar boat this year, but the one difference is he's not wearing the green dot. So Christian Roseboom, at least right now, is going to be the guy calling the plays, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay simply because, like, I know people want Trevin Wallace to pan out, and I do too, but I don't know that he's fully prepared to be in that state right now. So now, though, you do have Claudin Cherilus and Jacoby Wyndham. That's your 4 rotation. Again, not a lot of experience, not a lot of production at all for this group. So we'll continue to monitor the linebacking core and how they're going to pan out. Who's going to eventually, I guess, start, and if the Panthers decide to possibly make a decision to bring someone else in. Bam Martin-Scott did get and the other guy at Fresno State, the undrafted free agent, did get a shout out from Dave Canales in his press conference. So, Dave Canales, I think, routed off every linebacker practically as far as the depth, but that does tell you a little something about what they're possibly seeing. So positive news. If you can hit on an undrafted free agent and get production, always a win. So the secondary under scrutiny, as we said, we've already talked about the weak linebacker group. We talk about the weak safety position. Now it's just figuring out who's it going to be. Like we said, you have Trayvon Merrick out running points, who's with him. So we did see the rotation of Ransom, Damani Richardson, and Nick Scott. We had hoped there was going to be a bolstering, that they've flirted around with Julian Blackmon. Sorry, he's gone. Landing in New Orleans. Justin Simmons still, at least at this point, available, and Marcus Williams. I don't know. We can talk a lot about how bad the run defense was, but the pass defense wasn't that much better. 23rd pass defensive rank. They allowed 35 passing touchdowns. And then again, no pass rush or sacks. Like all those things contribute. Like just all around bad defense. We're going to move on from that. But the nature of all these things combined does make me think, the defense was as bad as it was. The Panthers won 5 games, could have won 7, maybe 8. If they can be okay, then we should still be in a range of being competitive, winning 8 to 9 games this year. At least that's the benchmark. Kicking competition, you do have veteran. So remember, usually what they'll do is a rotation. So one guy kicks one day, then one guy the other. Matthew Wright kicked today. He was 4 for 5 from the 50-ish range that was reported by Mike Kay, using the skinny goalpost. So they are, if you guys haven't seen them, they're not the full goalpost. He used the skinny because of construction and it's easy to move around. And we've discussed injuries yesterday. There really isn't anything new with Tommy Trimble. Like we said, he should be okay. Same thing with Bobby Brown and Sam Martin as they work their way back. And then Derek Brown was excused as he's cleared, but working his way in there. They did have new Guardian caps that debuted for the Carolina Panthers. So there you have it, folks. That's the breakdown for the Carolina Panthers news. We are going to take a look at a little league-wide news, maybe just for a second. Again, just trying to incorporate some new stuff in here. And then we'll also talk through a few small NFC South pieces. Now, this whole framework, and I don't know how many of you have been following the media deal with the NFL Network and the Red Zone. So the NFL is trying to get rid of their media. They don't want the NFL Network or NFL Red Zone or any of that. They want to sell it. I mean, naturally, when you look at the size of the market, there's not many people that can pick it up. You think about a CBS and NBC, Peacock, all these platforms, Netflix, like a true TV network that can pick this up and run with it, has the resources, capacity, and skill set to do so. ESPN's your leader. So they are nearing in on a $2 billion agreement. It's going to be voted on, so we'll find out how that's going to pan out. I know a lot of people are already up in arms about the potential to see and hear Stephen A. Smith or Pat McAfee 7 hours a day through whatever means talking about the NFL and all the NFL content that's going to come with it. But yeah, you probably are going to see even more than what you do today if this deal goes through. I don't really care about veterans on the hot seat for those that are watching there, or any observations related to the Kansas City Chiefs. What I do care about is your NFC South rivals update. See, the Atlanta Falcons opening weekend training camp sold out. There's a lot of high fan expectation. Michael Penix Jr., the focus is on him, working on his development with his receivers. A lot of questions related to the pass rush and what they're going to generate there. But hey, we know they brought in a few guys, man, through the draft. So we'll see how it goes. New Orleans Saints, of course, the quarterback competition is underway between Spencer and Tyler. See how that pans out. The retirement of Tyrann Mathieu. And, of course, just seeing Kellen Moore out there as the new head coach for the New Orleans Saints. Just a little bit weird. Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay continues to move right along. They are the team to beat in the NFC South. They'll continue to be the team to beat. They're the measuring stick. 11, 12 wins possibly on their radar. Carolina Panthers have to figure a way to knock them out this year to get through it. So anyways, folks, that is going to do it for today's episode. As always, this is Carolina Dad. Y'all